Welcome, Modern Talkers. This is Modern Talk. Modern Talk. Why? Did you hear my throat do something weird? There's also, I forgot to mention, there's always the Transformers outside, and there's a highway right here, and we're really close to the airport. So it's a really great location for podcasting. A lot of noise going on. But my noise made a throat. My throat made a noise, and I'm wondering if it's because I'm starving. And I'll get to why I wasn't eating. I haven't been eating in a second, but it came just in time because last week was awesome, and I had like a bunch of food that I love, and I ate so much of it because that's how I roll, and not healthy, but it's how I roll, and it's good to be back in the usual spot. Although last week was fun, that was cool. And I'm getting some people listening, which is good. It's not like a complete flop, and we haven't done the video podcast even yet. So ideally, that should be more listeners, and hopefully that's good news. And I'll get to that in a second. So a little bit about last week. Ricky and I, the co-host, hung out 3 times in the 9 days I was there or something. So that was really cool. And I hung out with him the first night because you never know with him. That could have been the last night I ever saw him. So I was really tired. I took a plane, so I was jet lagged or whatever. But you're just tired anyway. I think jet lag's a myth to some extent. Conspiracy theorist, as you could tell by my David Koresh shirt. I picked him up and he showed me his new house. He has a house. Isn't that crazy? It's a fixer-upper, but it's a house. And that's really crazy. So he showed me around his new house, and I'm really excited for him. And then we were gonna go to Buffalo Wild Wings because that was the only place we could think of that was open past 9 on a Sunday. Sounded like I was trying to sing a song. And then we passed a local Chinese place that we've loved growing up going to, and we're like, no way, that's open, right? And then we looked it up, and it was open. Well, it's better to tell stories in the present tense. So it's open, so we go over there, and there's no one else in there. And we're like, 2 please? We got there at 9, and and they close at 10. So, I don't know. It didn't feel weird. It felt weird, but it shouldn't have because it was a full hour, I think. I haven't really worked in that industry, so maybe it is a faux pas to some extent. But we were really low maintenance, I thought. So we sat in a table, and boring, and but the table was in front of the TV that they had, and Sunday Night Football was on. And so I got to hang out with my best friend, watch Sunday Night Football in the background, and eat one of my favorite dishes from home. And it was just the perfect night, and we're catching up and stuff like that, and reminiscing and making new memories. So it was exactly what you want with a hangout session with an old friend. It was perfect. The food was so good. It was way better than No, it's just as good as I remember, but way better than I thought, because some people said that it's gone downhill. It's called Lynn's Garden. It hasn't gone downhill, if you know about it or are in the area, I think it's underrated. The amazing chicken is what we get, so you got to get that, and you got to get it extra crispy and extra sauce. You know how it goes. Yeah, so that was just like perfect. And then I went back there another night when Ricky blew me off one night, and I don't know, I think I was already out, and I was like, hey, do you want to hang out? Because I was hanging out with someone else, and then I went to, okay, I'll tell this story. So my high school friend, he's a senior, and he had a football game, and that's like the main reason I came home, kind of. Like, I promised to see him play in his senior year because you gotta, and so I just made an excuse. I could, use any excuse to go home, so I just made it worthwhile by also doing it during peak fall season. Like, the trees were changing perfectly when I got there, and what else? Also, it's weird that there's not like an exact science of when the leaves will change. They say like in PA it's mid to late October, and but it depends on obviously the coldness, because the coldness kills the leaves, which makes them pretty, which is weird, and then wind is also a factor. So if they blow all off, they're obviously not pretty on the, I almost said ceiling, on the canopies. Went from really stupid to really smart real quick. So that was also a reason. And then I just saw like a bunch of friends that I haven't seen in a while. So, and then, yeah, so I went to see him, and then his game was over at like 9. And then I wanted to see if Ricky wanted to hang out, and he said, and he couldn't because he was tired or whatever. But I was like, well, I have to eat. So I went to Lynn's Garden, and they closed at 10, like I said, but I got there at like 9:24, and and there's no one in there, and I'm just one person. She's like, just one, please. And then she's like, no, takeout only, no. And she like came out at me with this energy, and I was like thrown off, and like I have 35 minutes, and it doesn't take long to make that stuff, and I'll be quick, but whatever. So so when she came out with that energy, I was like, no, takeout only, and takeout doesn't taste as good, obviously. So I wasn't gonna do that, and it's like a 30-something minute drive to get back to my house. So maybe 25, but I didn't want to do that, or I could eat it in the car, which is also lame. So I just wasn't gonna do it, and so I, like, as soon as she said that, I just turned around. I was like, okay, thank you. And then as I was walking out the door, she's like, do you want takeout? And I just kept walking because she couldn't see me, and I was like, I didn't want to be like, no, thank you again. I said that already, and I heard you already. So I just kept walking, and I think they took that to heart a little bit, because then I went back a third time with Ricky again, and they're like, oh, you're back now. And I was like, yeah, I wanted to eat here, and you didn't let me last time, so I'm back because I want to eat here again. But I didn't say that, obviously. I was just like, yeah. So those are my Lynn's Garden stories and Ricky stories. And then I held Hannah and Sammy's new baby. Remember I told you they had a baby? She's a month old. She was a month old when I visited her. And actually, I think she wasn't even a month. Or maybe no, she was about a month. Anyway, I can't fathom that being like the offspring of one of my two greatest friends. It is so weird. It's so weird. And they were like, how does it feel having, like, you're our mutual oldest friend, and so that must be like really weird for you to see our baby. And I was like, yeah, it is. I don't know how to feel about it. Like, how do you comprehend that? I don't know. I can't do it. How do you do it? Help me out. But I was holding her, and I have pictures, a picture. And like very soon after I started holding her, she she farted really hard, and so like her butt was like right here, so like I felt the wind, and it was so powerful. I'm sorry if this is too much, but it's a baby, so it can't be gross. And then she kept doing it a lot, and the first time it really scared me because I was like, did I break her? And then and then she kept doing it. She's like, oh, she's just pooping. I'll change her in a second. And I was like, okay. And then I was like starting to get worried that the poop would get, sorry, it's gross, on my shirt. And I was like, it probably can't. And even if it can, I could just wash it or whatever. But so finally Hannah takes her from me, and she changed her. She's like, whoa, she really went to town. And I was like, yeah, I thought so. I haven't been around many pooping babies, but that was the most I've ever experienced. And and she's like, yeah, I think this is the most she's ever done. And I was like, wow, I guess she's really comfortable with me that she can do that with me, so that's cool. That's really crazy. Back to my friend who played football. He had the game of his life. He had 3 touchdowns and 256 yards or something crazy. He's a wide receiver. And his quarterback isn't great. I don't want to put him down if he's listening, but he's more of a runner. They're mostly running offense, but like almost all of his yards came after the catch because he's just a dog and can't be taken down. And he's fast and he's tough. He's so good. And then I hung out with him the next day, and I was like, the day I saw him, I was a little starstruck, like, dang, like he is so good. It's crazy. I can't fathom that he's the person that I know catching that ball and like running over people. That's crazy. So when I hung out with him, I was like, every time I see him, since we've been friends since he was like a kid or whatever, so we've been friends for a long time. And he every time I see him, I think he's gonna get like big-headed and be like too cool, like that kind of teenager thing, and he's never been like that. And I don't know how he kept that. That's just like who he is. And he was the same exact person as always. So that was really cool. Like, I feel so blessed that I've had these super talented and humble people like Connor Slopka, who was on the podcast. He's this beast who was a starting running back or fullback at Army and he's like the humblest, sweetest person you'll ever meet. And so the same thing with Benny Hasselrig, if you want to look him up. Dude, I don't think he has any scholarship offers yet, which is insane. He's a little undersized, but he's super physical, and he has great hands, and he's fast. He should get a scholarship somewhere. So if he doesn't by the time this comes out, something's really, really wrong. And I don't know what it is. Racism? Possibly. You can always count on racism as a scapegoat. Because I think he's mixed. Anyway, it's always scary when you bring up racism for no reason. And then Betty, my aunt, who I'll have on the podcast eventually, I want to do like a whole family thing where I do each of like my immediate, like my mom, my dad, my aunt, my uncle, and maybe some others, but definitely those four. So she's my aunt, and she like kind of is known in the family as like making all the classic Italian dishes in our ancestry. I don't know if that makes sense, but like everyone before her did it, and now she's taken over, and now she does it. And she made my favorite, which is manigat. Some people say manicotti. It's like a long ravioli, so it's more the insides, the rigat, we call it. I think regatta, as other people say it. Yeah, I like, that's why I like it better than ravioli, because the ratio's better. That's like Reese's peanut butter cups and stuff. Like, I think the ratio for the minis are better than the actual like 2-pack or whatever you get, like the normal kind. So I'll put references there and stuff, but yeah, so she made my favorite. So it was just like such a good 2 weeks, really, because I don't remember if I said this, but last week, or the week before last, my parents came down here for a week, and then so I hung out with them a bunch, and then I came home with them for 9 days or whatever, and then it was just awesome. And I also got work done. It was kind of a whirlwind when I got back here, because I planned for my roommate Scott to pick me up, because my parents brought me to the airport, so I needed someone to get me. And he knows this, but he's unreliable, so I didn't want to ask him. But I don't know, I didn't want to bother the other people that are more reliable here. So and if there's any hesitation with him, I would have been like, cool, definitely, don't worry about it, I'll get someone else. But he was like, definitely, like blah, 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 blah. So I trusted him, and then when I landed, I turned my airplane mode off, and he said, hey, I'm with my parents at our Myrtle parents' house, not my real parents, but my Myrtle parents. And so I know it's confusing, but so his parents and our Myrtle parents. Gosh, I hope you listen to other episodes so that makes a little bit of sense. But then so I can't make it, but I'm gonna send you money for an Uber. And then I was like, no, it's okay, I could get an Uber. That's what I was gonna do anyway, if you weren't gonna pick me up. So but he sent me money for the Uber, which was nice. But don't tell him I used the Lyft. Not that matters. But it was stressful because I did the Lyft as soon as I landed, because I didn't want him to like take a super long time. And so he was there before I even got my bag, I think. So I said, hey, I just landed, so take your time or whatever. But if you have to leave, I understand, because I have to get my bag still. And he just said, okay. And so I was like waiting for the bags to come, and then I got it, and then I got to him but that was stressful. And then I got back to the house, and I showered, and then my ex texted me and said she's always listened to the podcast, and she listened to the most recent one, which was In Touch with Tommy 4. And like at first I was like, wow, that's great news, right? And like flattered that she has listened to it before that. And then but then I was like, why didn't you tell me that when we were dating and stuff? I don't know, it was weird. So anyway, I was like, yeah, wow. Then you're in for a doozy next week, because next week is the breakup one. So I don't know how that's gonna go down. So that's still a developing story, and I'll update you on that. Really nervous about that one. Could go really bad. Anyway, so then I went to Ranch Charlene's, which is my Myrtle parents, and also their actual kid and son-in-law was there. So it was like 10 people or something, and they were playing a game called Stir the Pot, and it's like a cards like who's most likely to fart, you know, in a small space or something, and then they all point to Tommy, and they're like, oh yeah, that's totally him. I don't think there's a winning. I don't think you win or anything. I guess who with the most cards or something. But that was really fun. But then I had to go to my softball game because it was the last game before playoffs, and I missed the last 2 games because I was out of town. So it was really important to me that I go. And then I had a really bad game, and then my ex said something that was really bad, and really bad is really vague. Like didn't feel good to me. So and I'll talk about it more if I feel it's appropriate, considering what happens in the next whatever days. It just didn't sit with me well, and so I wasn't very hungry. Like, you know, like how you get that sick feeling and stuff. So I ate on Tuesday. I ate on Tuesday. The only thing I ate on Tuesday was 3 pieces of pizza for lunch. And then I didn't eat. I didn't have time to eat, and I didn't want to eat right before softball. And then I never feel like eating after softball, because that's also really close to bedtime. What am I, 12? Yes. And then the next day I woke up to that bad news from the ex, and then she told me not to say her name on the podcast, and I don't think I have a lot, but yeah, anyway, so I didn't feel like eating then, and then the pastor took me out to lunch, or to breakfast, which was really nice, but I only ate half of it, which is not like me, because not hungry, and then I didn't eat again until 5, I think, and then I ate a little bit more normal, but I still feel not great, but I'm feeling better. So how long has this been already? Who knows? It's been I have a lot of short stuff to go over. I'll just start from this side. So something I learned, because last podcast was one topic or whatever. So I'm gonna do some older material that you haven't heard yet. So something I keep thinking about is, what are you afraid of? And that's goes for everything, but that's something I learned from softball. Like, what's the worst that could happen? And then kind of come to terms with the worst. And then if that does happen, then it's like you already came to terms with it. But then, but if it doesn't, it's like, wow, great news. A lot of times, especially if you're afraid of someone, a lot of times they're more afraid of you than you are of them. So I don't know if that kind of makes me feel safer, because a lot of times I think like, oh, they're so in control, they know everything, they're I tell myself this story that they're better than me in some way, but they're not. They're just another person, and they're also probably scared to some extent. So that's something that I learned, and I want to take a nap already. I just woke up. It's an early morning one, but I have work and blah, blah, blah. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares? I wanted to update you on Pete's relationship because I don't think I did. Oh, so what I talked about this in the last, I talked about this in the last one that, I was listening to my old podcast and stuff. And I wanted to update you on at least this thing, that I don't think I updated you guys on. So, I don't know. I don't think I updated you. So, I think the last that Pete was in a relationship with that really cool story about the t-shirt. He gave the t-shirt off his back to a random chick. Shouldn't say chick, I think. To a random girl at college on the first day of college, and then after college they kind of reignited this weirdly through me, and thank you, and I like to take credit for that, and they were dating, but then they broke up because of various circumstances, and then they did the cold turkey thing where they didn't talk for, it was like at least 3 months, and then all of a sudden she because we were talking about, because I think my ex and I broke up at a similar time, like right after, so we were going through the same thing to some extent, and so we were like, man, it's gonna, like, since she hasn't said anything in this long, and the ball's in her court because she broke up with him, and if she hasn't said anything yet, like, wow, she's like really over you, or like doesn't care or something, she's gonna have to have a really great apology to get back in like the good graces, if that's even something she wants to do. And then one day she texted him this really long thing. It was crazy. And it was like the perfect, like, hey, sorry about everything, still care about you. I think I should still be single, but, I miss you, and you didn't deserve anything that I did to you. That great stuff. So it's like, oh, mwah. So I was like, and then she's like, oh, by the way, I'm moving to your city. And so he's like, oh, wow, that changes everything. So, because that was a big point of contention in their relationship, that she lived like at least 10 hours away from him. So that's obviously makes it hard. But then them living in the same city makes it a lot easier, needless to say. So through something like, I got it. I should have made a wish. I wish that Pete and Sarah live happily ever after. I don't know if that's how that works. Someone told me when I was a kid that if God catches it, then your wish will come true. So I'm always afraid to see it like on my leg or something if I do that, because I'm like, then God didn't catch it. So then they started hanging out as friends, and then obviously it became more than that. So they're like fully back together now, which is really awesome and cool. And then there was like two other people. I don't want to say names because I don't know, you know. I'm starting to get in more trouble about saying stuff on the podcast. So I'm going to start to be a little bit more careful, especially about other people. But man, this is good. I feel really good. Like I feel really comfortable with you guys. Sometimes I get nervous and get jittery and stuff, but I feel really good right now. So, what was I saying? Oh yeah, there were 3 people total in my life that got back with their exes, and 2 of them definitely aren't working out / won't work out, but Pete and Sarah are working out so far. So I was like, wait, where's I probably said this on the podcast, but I thought, like, why am I not getting a second chance? But I think based on what she told me yesterday, I think I know why more. But anyways, so that's the update on Pete and Sarah's relationship. And now I'm thinking I shouldn't have said their names, but I already said their names before, but that's what I thought last time with my ex. So maybe I still shouldn't say it, because by the time this comes out, maybe they're not together anymore. Please don't let that happen. I wished upon a star, upon an eyelash. Okay, so this is great news, because I figured out the great mystery of the friend zone. Ooh, wizardry. So I found this out through a girl, so it has to be true. So the differences between boys and girls in attractiveness. Girls think you're attractive or not from jump, and guys can develop attraction to a girl. So once the guys get to know them, they realize how beautiful they are inside and out, but the girl already decided if you weren't for them. So the guy thinks she's reciprocating from growing deeper in their friendship, but the girl isn't reciprocating because she already decided you're gonna be my friend because I'm not attracted to you. So girls don't get that attraction thing. It doesn't grow on them. Most, I'm talking generally, obviously. There's always exceptions and stuff. But so that's where it gets dicey, where a girl and a guy are friends, and they she's like down here or whatever, and then I don't know if that would translate, but she's not interested and never has been interested. Yeah, so she's down here, but he grows in interest, and he thinks it's like a shared thing, but she's still down here, so he tries to, like, I don't know if this is mixing metaphors, because I was thinking of a graph chart or something, but he tries to, like, thinking he's matching her energy, and then he whiffs, And then he realizes, oh shoot, like I just ruined this friendship because I thought we were on the same level, but we're not. So this right here is the friend zone. And you have to bring them up somehow, if it's even possible. So yeah, that's what I figured out. You're welcome. The research is done. We figured it out. Before the softball game, I went to pee. I just splashed myself. I went to pee, and there was a guy already peeing in the urinal. So I tried to cozy up next to him. No, he was on the far right. I was on the far left. And when he like noticed me, he's like, "Woo, this water's cold." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "The water in the urinal is cold. Woo!" And I was like, yeah, it's cold. Like, I knew what he meant, meaning like his penis is so long that it's touching the water in the urinal, which is gross. It's a gross joke. It's not true. And I appreciate that he, did that swing. But to do that to a stranger, I guess that's kind of more baller or whatever you want to say, gutsy to do that to a stranger. That's like a stupid joke that you would say to your best friend. I feel like not to a stranger, because you don't know what their like barometer for that stuff is. And then I think he ended up being the pitcher for the team that we played, and he was so inconsistent, but they beat us pretty good, which is annoying. And I think if I played better, we could have won, and that's annoying. But that's how it is. So I think that's a funny experience with that guy. And then I'm out of order, but the TSA agent on my flight when I was by myself, coming back to Myrtle, I heard what he said to them, and so I was like, okay, I better do the right thing because I don't want to like get yelled at or tackled to the ground. So I don't remember what he said exactly. Oh, you had to push the bins all the way through to the rolly part. And then, but they didn't, and then he yelled at them for that. And so I did it, and I was a good boy. And then I put my phone down, face down, so the back of my phone, which is my logo, was up. And so he's like, some people don't listen, it's crazy. And I tell them to do this because then people steal stuff because they leave their stuff unattended. And so it's like, he's like, it's not my fault if they lose something. And I was like, yeah, totally. I was like, I just don't want you to yell at me, anything. I'll do anything. So, and then he looks down at my stuff, and then he's like, oh, that's cool. Is that you? I was like, yeah. And he's like, wow. And then he just stared at it for like a couple more seconds. And I didn't know, I wanted to say, check it out, I have new podcasts every week or something like that. But I didn't want to push my chances with how good it was going. So I was like, yeah, okay. And then I went through and did the Illuminati thing that you have to do before going through the little, what about David Spade? I love the phrase, love is love, which if you don't know what that is, it's like a thing people say in defense of gay people and lesbians, because no one could argue with that. Love is love. And I love love, dude. I talked about it on my podcast years ago, I think in 2018. So like someone arguing with that, like that's like me typing reading is reading, and then someone says no it's not, and then I say, well, how did you know that? Are you a level of smart that you could read something and argue with it, but you can't comprehend what you read? Is that what that is? So it's like anything, like air is air. Like everything is itself, obviously. And I guess they would say, you know, it's not really love or something, which, who are you to say? Why do you care? And that's about as political as I'm gonna get, and it's not even political. But so I had this thought at this morning at 3:58 a.m. and I could have just said 4 a.m. but I don't flip up the numbers. Why didn't they? Well, I know why they didn't, but they should have, in my opinion, do a Back to the Future with an alternate Marty McFly. Like, if they made this nowadays, it would totally be a multiverse type deal thing. Where, so if you don't know, there was a guy hired, and I don't remember his name. Shoot, I should have looked it up. But it was 3:58 a.m. They hired a guy to play Marty McFly. Nice rhyme. And they shot most of the movie with him, and then they realized he's the wrong guy, and they needed Michael J. Fox. So they reshot the whole movie with Michael J. Fox. So that would be fun to have the Michael J. Fox that I didn't like, because he was like too dark and serious. And so that would have been a really interesting dynamic of the Marty McFlys, the one like kind of like jovial and lighthearted and fun and funny, and then the like dark Marty, Darty as I like to say. So I think that would have been a really cool thing that they could have like messed with timelines and all that stuff. So I guess that's it. I feel really good. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Oh, this is what I wanted to say for a while. Someone's outside. Check out the podcast on my website, because I put up all these pictures that reference everything that I talk about. And I do audiograms sometimes, or clips from the videos. So that's on there, and a little synopsis, and then links to stuff if it's called for, if I reference something. And I think that's it. So if you want like more behind the scenes stuff from the podcast, then let's get on my podcast on my website. I love you guys, and leave a comment in there. See if I care. All right, peace out. Hope this made you think, and keep in touch with me. I did the lift as soon. Excuse me. Who is that?